I'm sitting in Group A at Izapa, and what you're seeing are the little roofs over stone monuments. The stone monuments are what Izapa is most famous for. There were several art styles represented here, but the most famous is the so-called Izapan art style, which by many, including Michael Coe, is thought to be a precursor of lowland Maya art, carved relief art. Izapa is on the Pacific Piedmont, which is to say we're just at the base of the mountain chain that runs east and west, starting at the Isthmus of Tehuantepec and going all the way through Guatemala and farther east in Central America. Currently the central precinct of Izapa is occupied by probably several dozen families who farm bananas, corn, some cacao, a fruit, an introduced fruit called rambutan, and probably beans and squash as well. This is Izapa Stela 4. It's a relief carved monument with a sky band at the top, and then a personage, a zoomorphic personage with wings. It seems to be diving a little bit lower down on the monument, and he's actually looking down on another standing figure toward the bottom of the monument. Looks like this Stela 4 stands probably a little over 2 meters tall. Well, we're at Group B at Izapa now, which is not too far from Group A. Both Group B and A are part of the late formative section of Izapa, which includes a number of fairly large mounds, including this one, a number of which I forget at the moment, but as you can see it's probably 10 to 15 meters tall at the top, so it's a fairly large mound. So construction probably started here during the middle formative period, probably around 500 BC or perhaps a little bit earlier, and most of this area was constructed between 500 BC and 0. And the stone monuments, of which there are a number in Group B as well, were mostly carved between probably 500 BC and 0 as well. Well, now we're in Group F at Izapa, which, unlike the Groups A and B, this is actually a late classic occupation area. Izapa was predominantly occupied during the formative period, but it was then reoccupied with a fairly large population again in the late classic period, and there was probably some population during the early and middle classic period as well. Over here, this is Mound 125A, which is most famous for the excavations carried out by the New World Archaeological Foundation during the 1960s, which provided a very detailed post-formative chronology that runs from about AD 200 or so up through AD 1200, the end of the early post-classic period. The monuments that you see here were largely, they're all formative period monuments that are thought to have been repositioned during the late classic period, by people who may have raided the central area of formative period Izapa, which is about 2 kilometers to the south. standing at the top of Mount 125A, looking down onto the Group F courtyard. This has been largely reconstructed since the 1960s. As you can see, all the stones are in neat arrangements. If it were clear enough today, you would be able to see two volcanoes as I pan from west to east. First, Tacaná volcano, which is just on the border between Mexico and Guatemala, and then Tajumulco volcano, which is further east inside the border of Guatemala, or inside the country of Guatemala. And stretching out toward the south is the coastal plain and eventually the mangrove zone where we are working, which is about 30 kilometers from where I'm standing now.